If you really care about your family, then keep quiet. Owen's venue reservation got canceled all of a sudden, so we decided to use Madison's venue. The voice pierced my eardrums like an icy knife. I turned around, and there she was, my mother. Her face was so brazen, so shameless that it didn't show even the slightest hint of guilt. Her words drew a single, cruel line that connected everything to the nightmarish scene unfolding before me. This was supposed to be the dream party venue I had spent months preparing for my 7-year-old daughter, Madison. The theme was Fairy Tale Castle. Rose gold banners, pastel pink tablecloths, paper plates with gold trim. Everything was desecrated beyond recognition. At the center of the room hung a huge banner that read, "Happy Birthday, Owen." Superhero posters were taped to the walls, and blue and red spiderwebs dangled from the ceiling. The room echoed with the voices of children I didn't even know. What on earth is going on? My voice sounded like cracked glass. Mom, do you even understand what you're saying? Of course I do. I'm just stating the facts. You're family too, aren't you? Are you really going to turn a blind eye when Chloe is in trouble? Chloe is your sister. You've always helped her whenever she's been in a tough spot. At that moment, my sister Chloe appeared from behind my mother, holding Owen's hand. I'm sorry, but Owen really insisted. You understand, don't you? I looked up at the ceiling. Ah, yes. It's always like this. How many times have I witnessed this exact scene in my life? My mother striking me with the club she calls logic, and Chloe stabbing my conscience with her tears as her poor me shield. A perfectly calculated devilish tag team. To them, this isn't a family conversation. It's nothing more than a ritual to extract whatever they want from me. Chloe's hollow, perfunctory "I'm sorry" echoed unpleasantly deep in my ears. I could feel the magma of long-suppressed anger reaching its boiling point. I was done staying silent. Sorry. My voice was shockingly cold and quiet, even to myself. Is it really possible for a voice to sound this calm once it passes the threshold of anger? I stared straight into Chloe's eyes, where fear and self-pity swirled together. Do you really believe that? Did you come here to celebrate Madison's birthday? Or was this your plan from the very beginning? My words sliced through Chloe's pretense like a razor-sharp blade. The blood drained from her face, and for a split second, panic flashed across it. But it didn't last long. She quickly unleashed the special technique she had mastered through years of experience. Her eyes glistened with tears, and her lips began to tremble. How could you? That's such a cruel thing to say. Almost on cue, my mother stepped between us as if she had been waiting for this very moment. Her eyes blazed with fury, as though I were some kind of heinous criminal. Haley, that's enough. Stop bullying Chloe. If you really care about this family, then keep quiet and accept the situation. Her words snapped the final thread holding my composure together. How did things end up like this? I had paid $4,200 for this party venue. Thanks to the life insurance money left by my late husband, I was financially secure. This was an act of pure love for Madison. I grew up in a single-mother household and had no memories of ever having a birthday party thrown for me. My mother's favorite lines were always, "We don't have money," and "You'll just have to put up with it." That's exactly why I wanted to give my daughter a magical, sparkling day, something money couldn't truly buy. A single day when she could feel like a real princess. Ever since deciding on the fairy tale castle theme, my days had been shining with excitement. I held meeting after meeting with the venue coordinator, meticulously planning every detail based on Madison's favorite pastel pink and gold color scheme. Rose gold banners, gold trimmed plates, and a custom 3-tier cake shaped like a castle. I had chosen every piece while picturing Madison's delighted face, my heart fluttering with joy. When I sent out the invitations to Madison's friends and their mothers, they all said they were looking forward to the big day. Naturally, I also sent invitations to my mother and my sister Chloe. A few days later, Chloe called me. Her voice was bubbling with excitement. "Haley, thanks for the invitation. So here's the thing. I wanted to talk to you about something. We decided to have Owen's birthday party on the same day as Madison's. Their birthdays are only a week apart, so it's perfect timing." I was speechless on the phone. "What do you mean? On the same day? Why? Oh, come on, it's logical, isn't it? Your party is in the morning, right? So we'll have ours in the afternoon at a different location. I'll let the relatives know." Logical? Why would she deliberately schedule Owen's birthday party on my daughter's special day? Questions swirled through my mind, but before I could voice them, Chloe abruptly said, "Okay, so it's settled then," and hung up the phone. I stood frozen, clutching the receiver tightly in my hand. A week before Madison's birthday party, I visited the venue for a final check. The female manager looked over my carefully crafted plans and smiled. "How lovely. Madison is going to be such a happy little princess." Her words alone made my heart soar. That night, my mother called me. "Haley, how's the party preparation going?" Her tone sounded caring at first, and I let my guard down just a little. "It's going well. I went to the venue today, and everything was perfect." That's wonderful to hear. Chloe's preparations for Owen's party seemed to be going well, too. Her words surprised me slightly. Normally, she would complain about Chloe's misfortunes and try to plant guilt in me. It was her usual routine. "That's good for her," I replied. My mother continued, her voice unnaturally cheerful. "So, what's Madison's venue like? How's the decoration?" Like a spy, she pried into every detail: the size of the venue, the theme of the decorations, even the schedule for the day. Caught off guard by her barrage of questions, I chose my words carefully as I answered each one. "Well, the decorations are mostly pastel colors, and the schedule is—" Why does she need such detailed information? Alarms went off in my head as I desperately tried to figure out my mother's true intentions on the other end of the line. But her unnaturally bright voice skillfully dodged my suspicions and kept me from getting to the heart of the matter. After extracting every bit of information from me, my mother spoke in a satisfied tone, as if she had just placed the final piece of a puzzle. "All right, I understand now. Thank you for everything. I'm really looking forward to the day." With that, she hung up the phone. There were no demands, no hints of jealousy. After that, there was no further contact from my mother, and that strange calmness only tightened the knot in my chest. It felt like a massive storm was quietly gathering strength beyond the horizon, creating suffocating days of uneasy silence. I kept telling myself over and over, "You're overthinking it," and waited for the day, clinging only to Madison's smile for strength. And then the fateful day arrived. I dressed Madison in her favorite gown, and my heart danced with anticipation. Listening to her innocent singing in the car, I tried to shake off my unease. Today will be fine. Just today, I told myself. But the moment I opened the venue door, all sound vanished. What hit my eyes was a world of garish primary colors I didn't recognize. The air was filled not with the sweet scent of desserts, but the cheap smell of popcorn. As my brain struggled to process what I was seeing, my eyes caught a blue paper cup lying on the floor. It was a grotesque foreign object tossed into the dream world I had so carefully created. I crushed the blue paper cup beneath the tip of my high heel. The dry crunch it made seemed to echo in the sudden silence. I slowly lifted my head. This wasn't anger. Something colder, harder was rising from deep within me. What is the meaning of this? The voice that slipped from my lips was shockingly cold and low, even to me. Hearing it, my mother frowned and crossed her arms with a look of deep annoyance, as if I were an ill-mannered, unwelcome guest. I told you, didn't I? Owen's venue got canceled, so we decided to use Madison's. There wasn't a trace of guilt in her voice. In her mind, everything was already neatly resolved according to her perfect scenario. I glanced at Chloe, who stood awkwardly behind my mother in her pastel-colored dress. When our eyes met, she flinched and quickly looked away, hiding behind her son, Owen. Ah, so you're in on this too. It's always the same. You hide behind Mom and play the victim. Rage surged through me, turning everything before my eyes blood red. The feeling in my hands and feet began to fade away. More than sadness, more than the despair of betrayal, it was a raging, blazing anger that consumed every part of me. $4,200. That's the money I spent solely for Madison's smile. I spent months planning with love. Amid the chaos of the party room, my mother's and Chloe's selfish words echoed inside me like a grating dissonance. If you really care about your family, if you would just put up with it. My vision turned red with fury, and I drew a sharp breath to yell back at them. That was when it happened. A small hand clutched the hem of my skirt tightly. I looked down to find Madison staring up at me with anxious eyes. She'd been standing in the corner this whole time, watching this ugly exchange, even though she was supposed to be the star of the party. Then Madison whispered the words that shattered my heart forever. Mommy, it's not fun anymore. Let's go home. It's okay. It's okay. Those words struck my head like a bolt of lightning. Time stopped. My mother's and Chloe's voices sounded distant. My 7-year-old daughter had already learned how to endure, how to give up, and how to tell herself it's okay when she was sad. In that tiny figure before me, I saw my entire life reflected back. When my mother treated me unfairly, I said, "It's okay." When Chloe stole my dreams, I said, "It's okay." That's how I had always survived, by killing my own heart. And there I was, on the verge of passing that way of life down to the daughter I loved most in the world. The blood drained from my face. My rage solidified into an icy, unshakable resolve. No way. This cycle ends with me. I will not let my daughter live the same life I did. I quietly knelt down in front of Madison and wrapped my arms around her small shoulders. Yeah, let's go home, Madison. We'll have a much better party somewhere else. I held her hand tightly and lifted my head. And then, without saying another word to anyone, I fixed my gaze straight on the exit and took my first step forward. Words were no longer necessary. Leaving that place, slipping away silently from that cursed relationship. That was my most eloquent act of resistance in my entire life, and a silent vow to protect my daughter's future. In the car on the way home, the only sound was Madison's gentle breathing as she slept in the back seat. In the silence, the pieces of today's events clicked eerily together with the memories of my past. It had always been this way. Since as far back as I could remember, Chloe had been the star of our family, and I had been the supporting role. My mother's favorite phrases were always, "She's delicate, you know," and "You're strong, so you'll be fine." Those words were nothing more than convenient spells used to force me into endurance and sacrifice. I remember the day I told them I was pregnant with Madison, the daughter I conceived with Ethan. The moment my happy announcement ended, Chloe declared triumphantly, "What a coincidence, me too." My mother completely forgot about me and celebrated Chloe's pregnancy as if it were some kind of miracle. The highlights of my life were always reduced to the opening act for Chloe's. Chloe was abandoned by Owen's father, and my husband Ethan died in an accident. Even though we both became single mothers, the paths we chose were entirely different. I forbade myself from drowning in sorrow and chose to stand on my own 2 feet. But they had managed to turn even Ethan's death into yet another tool for exploitation. When we got home, I laid Madison, still fast asleep in my arms, gently on her bed and kissed her forehead. Then I sat down in front of the computer in my study. My mother's cursed words echoed in my mind. "You have Ethan's insurance money, don't you? Helping Chloe and Owen is your duty as family." The culmination of it all was the car incident 2 years ago. Chloe cried to me and my mother cornered me. "Are you really saying my precious grandchild should ride in a used car?" "You have Ethan's insurance money." Back then, exhausted by grief and loneliness after losing my husband, I clung to the illusion of family harmony that Ethan would have wished for if he were alive. I handed over $5,000 I had saved as startup capital, and my dream was delayed for more than a year. Never again. I would not allow them to use even a single cent of what Ethan had left for Madison and me to feed their greed any longer. I picked up the phone and called the venue manager. My voice was strangely calm. "This is Haley. I'd like to cancel today's reservation. The venue, catering, decorations, entertainment, everything." On the other end of the line, I sensed the manager gasp. "Wait, Miss Haley, what on earth happened?" I then quietly stated only the facts. "No, what I reserved was a fairy tale castle party for my daughter Madison. What's happening there right now is a completely different superhero party. Because this is a serious deviation from the contracted agreement, I'm canceling all services." "But we simply followed all the instructions your mother gave us and handed everything over to the on-site manager according to the updated plan." "My mother?" At my low, steady question, the manager began speaking in a rush, her tone tinged with guilt. "It happened a few days ago. Your mother came to the venue. She seemed terribly heartbroken and said, because of Haley's sudden circumstances, Madison's party can't be held anymore." With each of the manager's words, puzzle pieces clicked into place in my mind. "Your mother said, if we cancel the reservation, the penalty fee will be enormous, and it'll only cause Haley more pain. Isn't there some way we could make use of the venue and time slot?" She then proposed, "Owen's birthday is coming up soon. Could we change the reservation for his party instead?" She even asked to change the theme to superheroes, something boys would love. Of course, we told her we'd need authorization from you, the official contract holder. But she said, "My daughter has already given me permission. She told me to take care of everything." She then presented a letter of authorization with your signature, along with a copy of your ID. She was so confident and convincing, and above all, her story was filled with such apparent love. I just don't want Haley to suffer financially anymore, that we completely believed her. Ah, so that unnaturally cheerful phone call was just a way to gather information for this. She must have forged my signature by copying it from some document at some point. The sheer meticulousness of her planning sent a chill down my spine that went beyond anger, like ice water being poured through my veins. My mother had devoted that much time and effort for the sole purpose of trampling on my love. The manager continued. At the end, your mother insisted over and over. Haley has already paid for everything, so please proceed as planned on the day. And please don't tell her anything until I contact you myself. I want this to be a surprise for her. We truly are so sorry. It was our failure to confirm properly. We were far too naive. I couldn't bring myself to blame the manager for these words of apology. There was no way a stranger could have seen through the elaborate schemes my mother and Chloe had perfected over the years. I understand the situation, but the fact remains that my party was ruined. Please proceed with the cancellation. I'll pay the penalty fee immediately by card. But, Miss Haley, this was also our mistake. There's no need for a penalty. No, I'll pay exactly as stated in the policy. I said it firmly. I don't want to have even the slightest financial connection with those people anymore. This is how I'll end everything. Hearing the unwavering conviction in my voice, the manager could say nothing more. I gave her my card information and waited for the payment to be processed. Those few seconds felt like an eternity. A few minutes after I hung up, my smartphone rang loudly. It was my mother. I stared at the name on the display with complete detachment. The call ended quickly, and then Chloe's name appeared. I could already picture the scene of their party falling into chaos. The catering being pulled out, the cheerful music stopping, the entertainers packing up and leaving. I ignored Chloe's call as well. Then, message notifications began flooding in like a tidal wave. What have you done? Owen is crying. Ungrateful. You heartless woman. I scrolled through the list of insults. Strangely, I felt nothing at all. A strange calmness ruled over me, as if I were merely looking at words in a foreign language from a distant country. Simply ignoring their calls and messages would not be the end. If I stayed silent again, I'd be forgiving everything just like I had all those years before. Even then, my mother and Chloe were surely spinning their convenient little story for the relatives and the people at the venue, painting me as a madwoman, an ungrateful daughter. I couldn't let them twist the truth any further. For Madison's sake, and for my own, I quietly turned back to my computer. Then I opened my social media account. I began carefully uploading every piece of evidence: our past message exchanges, photos of the venue contract, pictures of the party room overtaken by the superhero theme, one by one. I wrote down everything that had happened today, stripping away anger and sadness, laying out only the facts in a calm, clear voice. Finally, I typed out the caption. Being devoted to your family does not mean being exploited. My finger didn't hesitate for even a second as I pressed post. Not even 5 minutes later, my smartphone began buzzing with notifications faster than it ever had before. I had braced myself for a storm of criticism, but when I nervously opened the notifications, what I saw was the exact opposite. Well said. Your courage brought me to tears. The comments section filled with heartfelt confessions from people who wrote, I've been through something just like this, sharing the pain they had probably never spoken of to anyone before. Messages of empathy and support from strangers flooded in like a tidal wave. The light from the screen felt like a warm glow, affirming my lonely fight. I realized I wasn't alone. My post spread like wildfire. Naturally, it reached my mother's and Chloe's ears. It goes without saying that they were furious. My voicemail was flooded with dozens of enraged messages screaming, "Delete that post right now." I simply watched the avalanche of notifications in silence. The old me was gone. And as I wrote my reply to my mother and Chloe, I knew with certainty that this would be the final notice. I will not delete the post, because this is the truth. The reason you're angry is that the truth has been exposed, isn't it? We are no longer family. Do not contact me again. Goodbye. I hit send, and without the slightest pause, I blocked all their contacts. With just a flick of my finger, they disappeared, effortlessly. It was over. Truly, everything had come to an end. After the storm had passed, a deep, crystal-clear silence filled the house. Something I felt as if I were experiencing for the very first time in my life. It wasn't loneliness, it was freedom. For the first time, I could feel with every part of my being that I had finally reclaimed my life. That night, I stood in the kitchen. I poured my heart into cooking all of Madison's favorite dishes. Creamy, gooey macaroni and cheese, star-shaped chicken nuggets, golden and crispy. And for dessert, fluffy pancakes piled high with strawberries and drizzled with sweetness. It wasn't a fancy venue, but that night our little living room became the warmest party place in the entire world. Madison puffed up her cheeks as much as she could and blew out the 4 candles I had lit. Then she looked up at me with the biggest smile on her face and said, "Mommy, thank you. This is way more fun than that big venue." At that moment, tears began to quietly flow down my cheeks. This smile, this was what I had wanted to protect all along, and only then did I truly realize it. As I gazed at Madison's radiant smile, I felt, for the very first time, true freedom. Not the kind that comes from meeting someone else's expectations. Not from comparing myself to anyone else, but from simply sharing a moment of pure joy with the daughter I love. This was everything I had ever been searching for. Weeks passed, and one afternoon, the phone rang. The display showed my aunt's name. When I answered, she spoke quickly, sounding both uneasy and a little excited. "Everyone in the family saw your post on social media," she said. Her story was far more detailed and shocking than I had imagined. "It's a huge deal. That manager from the venue saw your post and figured out the whole situation. She was absolutely furious. According to my aunt, the venue didn't treat what happened as just a family dispute. The company had officially contacted the police and filed a criminal complaint for identity fraud by impersonating the contract holder and obstruction of business. They've also put your mother and Chloe on the company's blacklist, so they'll never be able to use any of their facilities again. And they're preparing to file a claim for damages for interfering with their business, with a lawyer and everything." And then my aunt continued, "Nobody in the family is taking your mother's or Chloe's side anymore. All those people who used to pity them as the poor mother and daughter have disappeared. Now everyone's whispering behind their backs, saying they brought this all on themselves. Since your financial support is completely gone, Chloe apparently had no choice but to start working, but she can't seem to hold down a job anywhere. Your mother also tried increasing her part-time shifts, but she's getting older, and it's taken a toll on her health. And that shiny new car? I heard she cried when she finally had to give it up because she couldn't afford the maintenance anymore." I listened to all of it quietly, as if I were hearing gossip from some faraway country. I didn't know what my aunt's true motive for calling me was. Pity? Empathy? Or perhaps she wanted to give me the validation of saying, "You are right." But after I hung up the phone, my heart remained as still as the surface of a lake. The anger that once burned me to ashes, the sadness that had gnawed at my soul for years, they were both gone. I felt no joy, no pity, no hatred, nothing at all. Because this was no longer my story. My mother and Chloe were merely characters who had stepped off the stage of my life. Whatever happened to them now no longer had any power to disturb the peace in my heart. The chaos from a few weeks ago already felt like something from a distant past. What I had gained wasn't an expensive party, but something money could never buy: genuine peace of mind and quiet, gentle moments with my daughter. Weekends no longer came with that heavy sense of obligation to visit my childhood home, nor did my heart leap nervously at the sound of the phone ringing. For Madison's next birthday, we wouldn't need a fancy venue or a long guest list. We'd just cook our favorite dishes together and spend the day laughing from the heart. True family isn't about blood ties or duty. It's the warm space where people respect and love each other. And now, I have finally come to understand that. With that simple truth held close to my heart, our new life has begun to move forward, slowly but surely.